Good evening, brethren. I am Dr. MJ Adetola. And this evening, I'm talking to you about managing health information in the age of misinformation. Misinformation is that which conflicts with the best scientific evidence that is available at the time, or misleading information masquerading as legitimate news regardless of intent. So the point is this: for instance, when the COVID when COVID-19 first began, there was a lot of things we did not understand about COVID. But in the weeks and months that followed, more information became available to scientists and physicians, and we began to understand that epidemic better, and we were able to offer information to help people and curtail the spread as well as the management of that illness. So some of our knowledge at the beginning of that pandemic began to shift and move. So if somebody was giving you information about COVID-19 in February and March of 2020, some of that information will be obsolete if that same information was still being offered in August and September of that year. So we needed to change. So misinformation has to do with the best scientific evidence available at the time. And certainly whatever information we gave you concerning that epidemic or pandemic in 2020, a lot of it is no longer relevant in February of 2023. So misinformation will be that which conflicts with the best scientific evidence available at the time. And whereas disinformation is completely different, it is when there is a coordinated or a deliberate effort to spread misinformation. So it's misinformation, but there is a particular reason, maybe to gain power or money or reputation. So people are deliberately offering misinformation because they want to gain power or money, just to cheat. Now, people can offer misinformation because they do not know. They think they're actually doing you a favor. But some people will, charlatans, for instance, will deliberately offer misinformation because they want to gain advantage or make money out of people to gain undue advantage. Now, we live, unfortunately, in an era where there is information overload. Uh, the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, rightfully described it as an infodemic, and it is characterized by an overabundance of information, especially of the false and misleading type. Now, for those of us who are Christians, we know that misinformation, disinformation did not start just because we now live in the age of the internet. It started in the garden itself when Satan misled our primordial parents in the garden, and therefore, the consequence was that Adam and Eve fell, and the whole of mankind fell. So it's been around for as long as mankind has been around, and we are called to be on the lookout so that we don't get deceived, so that we don't fall into the error that has been as prevalent for as long as mankind has been here. Now, unfortunately, false news spreads much more easily and is very easy. People readily share false news. What we know is that a very tiny group of people, they are the ones who readily and continuously share false information, and they disseminate this falsehood over and over and over again. Have you noticed, if you belong in a WhatsApp group, for instance, it's going to be one or two people who keep bringing the same, different kind of false news every single time. Majority of people in that group are quiet, or they just consume, they read it, they take it, they imbibe it. But the same group of people are the ones, one or two people, they bring it and they keep bringing every day. They scout for all this false information and they disseminate it. Now, falsehood unfortunately goes around the globe before truth, puts on its sandal. They will have gone around 100 times. Now, exposure to misinformation or disinformation unfortunately causes severe consequences in healthcare seeking behavior, as well as in delay in seeking valid and proven remedies. And we need to be very, very careful. Some people seek either don't seek healthcare at the right time, or they go for the wrong ones. Just the other day, I was listening on a Nigerian radio station. A man fell into a well and broke his bones in, the leg bones. And for about 6 months, they were going to places where they shouldn't have gone. They incurred a lot of debt, and the man's bones um, was set wrongly. And then after they had incurred a lot of debt, they now had to go and pay about 1.5 million naira to a surgeon who had to do a lot of job to fix all the badly healed bone. That was sad. Now, we have a responsibility to take care of our body. We know in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23, Apostle Paul writes his protege, uh, in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23, it says, "Do not go on drinking only water, but use a little wine for the sake of your stomach and your frequent ailment." Now, we know that drink a little wine there is a euphemism to drink a medicine for his often stomach sickness. Now, we don't know the particular nature of the sickness, especially in 1st century AD. But we know that in antiquity, a lot of medicines that they used in those days had some wine, some alcoholic material that was used in the making of their medicines back then. Now, false news is more easily shared. I already spoke about that. And the same small group of people often help in making this. It is our God-given responsibility to take good care of this one vessel that He has given us, so that we can fulfill whatever ministry that God has committed into our hand. Now, when I say ministry, it's not just the reverend or the bishop or the lay leaders in our church, as husbands and wives and brothers and sisters to people, as children too. God has given us, committed into our hands, ministries to go and disciple nations. You in the pew and those, serving at the altar, we're all part of this great commission that God has given unto us to disciple people, starting from our household, to disciple our children, to disciple our brethren, to disciple our friends, to disciple our co-workers. And to do that, we need to be in good health. We should take this very seriously and not imbibe false information or disinformation so that for people who want to take advantage of us and get into our wallets or control us as if we're their puppets. We are made and created in God's image and shouldn't be in the image of other people. Now, just a few examples. YouTube, there are these things that they call YouTube Shorts and Facebook Reels. They allow anyone, practically anyone, as long as you have one of these cell phones or devices, you can make 1 or 2 minute videos and make whatever claim you really want to without any credentials to back them up. And they make claims about anything, especially healthcare cells. And they do it as often as they please. You can make 10, 12 video reels every single day. You can make dozens. And people make all sort of wild claims about curing this disease or curing that disease or healing that particular ailment. And there are no repercussions. In fact, it's doubtful that these platforms can actually control these things anymore unless they actually stop those platforms. Now, Facebook and YouTube combined are used by 3 billion people. Now, there are about 7 billion people in the world, but imagine 3 billion people between these two companies. And these have the massive potential both for good and for evil, unfortunately, in disseminating health information. The problem is a lot of evil is what these platforms are unfortunately used for. And just for an example, Sometimes last year, unfortunately, it was actually there was some news that was circulating about using slime from snails, and you combine it with milk to cure stroke. When I tried to trace the origin of it, I found it in the Tribune of Nigeria. Now that's not true. That's absolutely false. Slime from snails mixed with milk doesn't kill snail. In fact, if somebody gets a stroke, you should get to the hospital quickly. Some of these are actually reversible if you go to the hospital within a certain number of hours. There are medications that can be given to reverse some of those strokes. It depends on where the stroke is located. Chances are you'll probably get some disease, some infection, drinking slime. It's actually not hygienic to do that. And thankfully, this is somebody wrote an article in the Guardian of Nigeria to say no, snail slime and milk will not cure a stroke. See your doctor instead. That's why I put that slide there. Now, I put this here because many of us have lived in North America, especially in Canada and the US. You see this gentleman, he was on TV for a long, long time, making wild claims. He even says that doctors have found a cure for diabetes, but they just won't reveal it because they need to make money. And that it was in some university in Edmonton or Calgary that the research has been done, is complete. His name is Kevin Trudeau. And as you can see, I put some of his books and claims. He says the weight loss cure. Then it was the natural cures that your doctors don't want you to know. He had the anti-aging miracle. Then he went into debt cures. Now, if you notice in his book there, that book, I think the foreword was written by Susan Somers, a lady who denies the efficacy of vaccines. And I think during the COVID-19 pandemic, she was also in the news for the wrong reason and things like that. Now, thankfully, he broke so many bridges. He's presently in jail for scamming people, but it's not going to be for long. I think he's been in jail for the last 7 or 8 years. He's going to be out one day and come back to his old tricks. He was on TV every morning, late at night. He was on TV deceiving people. The scripture admonishes us to prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. You find that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. Prove all things. Hold to the truth. Just because you see it on TV or you read it in newspaper, and as you can see, the newspaper that I cited, whether it's the Tribune in Nigeria or Guardian, these are not tabloids. These are actually responsible newspapers, but they can also push misinformation, even disinformation. So we need to be very, very careful. So where can we find credible health information? Certainly from your trusted healthcare provider, your physician, your nurse practitioner, from clinical practice guidelines of physicians which are online, because sometimes it may not be very easy to see your physician or nurse practitioner, and you need information at your health at your by searching online. I'm not against people going online, but look for sources that are credible. So you can go to the practice guidelines. Mayo Clinic is a website that I find very, very useful, and they've condensed this information in a way that makes them very easily readable. If you look in the bottom right corner of Mayo Clinic, for instance, some other websites have them. You'll see a logo there is called the HON code. HON just means, that's HON, Health on Nets. And you see their logo there. That's renewed every year. It's just to say that the information on that website is reliable and is updated at least every year. When you see that, that just tells you on a website that gives you credible healthcare information. You can also find information by going to the website of the particular diseases that you are looking for. For instance, if you go to diabetes.ca, that's the Canadian website, or the asthma.ca website, those information are compiled by seasoned healthcare specialists, nurses, doctors, and on, and they update those information ever frequently. So to round up, Prophet Hosea said in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6a, it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. It is very, very important that we seek information, but not just seek it, to apply them rightly. Seeking the right information and at the right time is very important in the ministry that God has committed into our hands. I thank you. There is going to be a newsletter that will accompany this video message you've just listened to. God bless you all.